Good morning. Back for another Tuesday of Conscious Conversations. I'm here with Amy, and we're talking about a topic that is like her inner wiring. This is totally Amy's jam. I'm going to learn a lot today. Beyond ego, shifting from self protective to self aware. So we're about to really dig into this. But Amy, I'm going to let you kind of frame it up with why you think this topic is so powerful and how it's unique from other topics we've talked about around ego.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think that ego is something worth examining consistently and just learning how it shows up for us in ways that serves us and ways that it doesn't. So I think it's helpful, and it's been coming up in conversations a lot with people making this decision. Been thinking about that kind of we moved our youth into college yesterday, and the ego and fear stories come up quite a bit. And so I think there are times that ego can be protective in a good way, and there can be times that it can be limiting. And there's also ways that it can reveal a deeper awareness and understanding about ourselves, about our patterns, our wounds. Not something to be negative over, but just really like curious and compassionate towards.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, when you just said, sometimes ego can be a good thing, protective in a good way versus leaning into more of like our unhealthy state. What do you mean by that? And maybe share an example.
I think there's times that ego provides discernment, and discernment is important and needed for our safety. Like when we get this inkling, this protectiveness of this person is not for you. This thing is not. It's a deep resonance versus ego just acting like a petulant arms
Oh,
crossed, like it's not fair.
Amy, we're having a
I don't
little
like
bit of
them,
hard time hearing you, so it's going in and out just a
Okay.
little bit. But hey, part of conscious conversations is like, hey, we're not gonna not do this. We're gonna do it every Tuesday, even if we're driving or traveling or got to get our exercise in. So, Amy, maybe say that
Yeah.
again.
Did you miss the whole thing, or is there a portion of it that you actually heard?
Well, let's just start over real quick because I think a couple people just joined us. So this is a good time. We're talking about our ego in a way that's healthy, protecting us. And, Amy, you started to talk about like discernment versus our unhealthy ego. So we're
Yeah.
just getting started with what that looks like in examples.
Yeah. I think discernment is like a deep knowing, and when that protective layer comes up. So like ego is the protective layer, and it's when it's sharing like, this is not for you. This person is not for you. Be cautious, be wary. It's discernment even feels different in the body. Like it's an embodiment of a no, versus when we're just fully in ego where it can be a petulant child that lives a lot purely in the mind, and it's like, I don't like that, that's not fair. It's very judgmental in a negative and nasty way, rather than in a kind of full-bodied understanding.
Yeah. And,
That, like,
Amy, I'm going to hop
I
in
think,
here because it was going out just a little bit there. One of the things that I think leaning into what Amy's sharing here is recognizing the triggers that are related to our ego. And I think, there's sometimes people are like, oh, triggers bad, like that's something bad, versus triggers could be an awareness opportunity. And so, you look at a trigger, and if we are consciously aware, you feel that feeling. You get that feeling of just like maybe a little bit raised in your, blood pressure feeling, or feel your stomach is turning a little bit, or whatever that is, getting a little heated, temperature rising. And, it could be that we take that and we react, right? And we may spout back at someone for something that they said because our trigger is allowing us to go in that unhealthy way, versus we're realizing, oh, this is my opportunity to take a pause and take a breath and realize consciously, like, how I want to respond versus react. And you know choosing that in the moment, and that's really like a healthy way of, versus the protective in a good way. It's the protective in a good way, recognizing the trigger and then taking a moment before we react, rather respond. So, Amy, am
Yeah.
I in the ballpark there?
Yes, you are. And I think that the thing we're talking about with ego today is where it's awareness and where it's helpful and where it's discernment. I think it's where we allow the body to meet the mind, and we're really curious about what's happening. When we live purely in the mind, we kind of run in circles with our ego. And the body it's a smart, if it's a highly intelligent place. It shares a lot of truth with us that we often will ignore because we go to the mind and live in the story, and so we purely only hear ego's lens. And listen, I think the things we've talked about a ton on our conscious conversations is like ego isn't all bad. I think when we can recognize it, when we catch it and we don't live purely in it, then we can still operate from wisdom, even if we have a little bit of ego's narrative that's coming along with us.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
not living 100% in ego, which is I'm right, they're wrong, I'm good, they're bad, or vice versa, I'm bad. Which is in pure judgment.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So maybe let's bring this into a couple of different scenarios, like maybe at home and at work, and play this out for a second. So, the ego, it's really about protecting us. And, we can protect ourselves and build a wall and just kind of, I don't know, revert and go inward. Or we can take that and create an opportunity to build connection, right? Living more open. So let's say that some random critical feedback comes our way at work. And maybe we just gave a presentation and didn't ask for the feedback, but someone thought, hey, I'm going to be helpful. They weren't being, mean about it, came to us and gave us this feedback. It was just kind of out of the blue. And we could choose like protective mode and the wall goes up, and, or we can choose that, be curious, maybe ask some more questions and like lean in and have a conversation, and it really becomes a gift, an opportunity, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's a good example of maybe something at work. What do you think about that?
Yeah. And I think, like, if we what does the difference sound like, right? So protective mode, full ego mode sounds first of all, you got to know what your ego does. Does your ego justify? Does it shut down? Does it just go quiet and go inward and then stew? Does your ego kind of reply quickly where it gives outward pushback? So are we more inward pushback or outward pushback? Is it a combination of the two? And what does that look like? Is it defensiveness? Is it anger? Is it emotional, and like maybe it's tears? Or what is the ego's, what happens when the ego is pushed? And then if we are inviting in, a deeper resonance of curiosity and compassion, as we've talked about before, even if the ego takes hold and that is our response, that is our reaction and our response, in hindsight, to be able to untangle it and say, who was I in that moment? Who did I become? Where did that serve me? Where did it get in my way? Where did I feel it in my body? What did I believe was true about me? What do I think, what's the good that came from that? What might have been a good intent that they shared? And we really just go into curiosity and questioning so that we can teach ourselves to understand it from a deeper lens rather than this go understand and therefore defend myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We were losing you just a little bit, but I think we got it. Just thinking about a couple of different situations. Most of us that are listening here, we're in some kind of a leadership role. And let's say it's a super busy week. It's just a really heavy week for all of the team. And you get on to check in with one of your direct reports. You're doing a one-on-one, and this person shows up. Again, everybody on the team is like stressed, including you as the leader. You're, working through this busy week, and this person hops on and is just in complete overwhelm mode. And they're sharing, I feel overwhelmed. My load is so heavy. I'm just not feeling supported right now. Maybe like giving a little bit of reference to another team member that's not doing pulling their weight, whatever. And in the midst potentially of being really stressed and not so conscious in our response, like a protective response could be, we're all busy, right? We all have a lot going on right now, and you come off as a dismissive, maybe avoiding the conversation to move on just to get stuff done in that one-on-one. That could be a situation, right? Whereas like maybe a connection response, right? No matter if we are super busy, and what we do before those meetings, it's like take a breath before the meeting to center yourself so you can be your best in showing up for whatever is going to come up on that meeting. But thank you so much for sharing how you're feeling. I'm feeling kind of that way too. Let's talk about what could we do with the next 27 minutes to get in a better place together. How can we best support each other? Let's talk through that together, and really like asking some curiosity questions and going into like listening mode and providing some solutions together, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I love that. And if we break that down, like this is true. And again, I mean, everything, how you do anything's how you do everything, right? But this is true in all relationships of it's not our job to justify the feelings of other people. It's our job to understand them.
Mhm.
It's not to tell them whether they should or should not feel the way that they're doing. Sometimes we do suffering, right? Loves suffering. Like, oh, you think it's hard, you think you have a hard, you should have my schedule, I've got this going on, like we love to sort of compare how other people should or shouldn't feel based on our own personal experiences. But especially as a leader, that's not our job. Our job is not to validate whether what they're feeling is okay or not okay. Our job is to understand and help troubleshoot and problem solve alongside them, not for them, but alongside them.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so good. Such a good reminder. Maybe it in like a friendship situation. Again, busy season of life. It has been travel and work heaviness, and something popped up with your kid that, man, they've been sick. I mean, it's just been really busy. And this close friend of yours, you typically talk like, every 2 to 3 days, but it's just been, one of those seasons. And when you hop on the phone with this friend, they're sharing with you that they feel disconnected. They feel hurt that you haven't checked in. It's been over a week. And in that mode of how we can be in the like high stress times, it's like, man, I have been so slammed. And you're just trying to justify and share all the things. Kids sick, been traveling, got it, all these things, right? And the connection response is, yeah, you're right. Like I can't even believe it's been over a week, and I hate that we've like not caught up like that. Let me share with you just a couple things that have been going on, and I would love to get caught up today, and I want to hear how you're really doing, right? But it just in those moments, it's like how do we in that split second? It's literally like we have 30 seconds to go this path or this path, the fork in the road, right? And how do
Yeah.
we so that no matter what, we're coming into those, and maybe no, it's not even no matter what. More times than not, we get to show up as the friend that we want to be in that time. And I'm just thinking, Amy, it's really about like what's happened before I hop on that call. Like, what have I done to center myself? And it's that regular practice throughout the day to take those little breaks, to do that breathing exercise, to have some positive self-talk and like recenter ourselves, because once we're in it, we've got, 30 seconds to make the decision on, am I going to go protective or am I going to go towards the connection in the relationship? Any thoughts there?
Yeah. And I think that's a really good
Oh,
discernment
Amy,
that creeps in
we are
about
missing
a
a
clear.
lot of what you're saying today. It is, we're having
Oh,
a good
I,
time.
you know what's crazy is I'm actually like in the city. I'm not even in the middle of in the middle of the cornfields like usual. I'm like literally on the interstate.
Okay,
So,
now we can hear you.
uh,
Say that again around the friendship, like
okay,
the friendship
I
scenario.
yeah, I think it's friendship is or just for deep relationships are man, they're very revealing for sure, and I think it's helpful to advocate for what we need, of or our expectations, but also be soft and compassionate for other people and their needs. And I like you're like, yeah, get your head right because especially if you're running around and chasing your tail in circles and you feel overwhelmed, we're not going to hear somebody's need or feedback in the same way. We're going to be very reactionary because it's likely that we're in fight or flight. We may not know it, but our body's in a stress state. And so those stressors, when we're stressed, ego is can be hooked very quickly and can become even more reactionary and more bold in how it shows up. So I think getting ourselves, our head and our body, and yeah, getting ourselves into a good state is always a good idea, whether that's a friendship or family or work. um, yeah, so that we can have those conversations from a better place.
Mhm. I think that daily work, it goes back to so much that we talk about in this series. It regularly comes up, these regular tips of how we start our day. Like before the world takes over us, we gotta, you know, go inward and work on ourselves, doing, that morning check-in and getting ourselves set for the day. And really a regular practice of pre-deciding who I want to be. Who do I want to be today? What are my core values? Amy, I think it was last week that we talked about our core
Yeah.
values and our North Star, and taking that time in the morning for us, especially, and probably even longer in the mornings when it's those weeks like I described in the work conversation, hopping on the one-on-one and everybody's busy. You got to gauge your week and decide, do I need to spend more time because there's a lot more on my plate? Not every day looks the same. We might need more time for that, and just being aware of that. But spending the time in the morning, pre-deciding who we want to be from a core value standpoint, and then throughout the day having you know, those practices of having small gaps in your calendar. You can't go from one meeting to the next to the next to the next with no break, to be able to show up as your best self, so that when you're at the fork in the road to decide with those 30 seconds of whatever comes your way, we've got to have those regular breaks. And that's like a quick walk or taking some deep breaths or whatever that may be. But we got to have our rhythms.
Yeah, for sure. I love the like just go to your breath. I mean, life can be busy. We don't always have all the time we would like to have, to have our morning routine. Like this morning, for example, I'm, literally pulling into the parking garage at the airport this morning and I had to finish packing and all sorts of things. But what we can do is just go to our breathing, whatever we're experiencing in the moment, just slow it down, put all of our focus on that, really start to calm ourselves. It helps with everything. It gets our mind, in a better place. It helps us align with our body. So I think those small practices are helpful to have in the toolbox, especially if you can't get it all in the morning. Like, okay, well, what are the small things I can do throughout the day to help myself regulate?
I love that. I think the other reminder too is, in these situations where we're all going to have them, like daily, maybe daily, definitely weekly, where, you don't have the break. Things do take over. The unhealthy ego takes over protection mode, and we come out in this defensive way, or we go inward and go silent, whatever that is. We all do that. We all, no matter how much you practice this and you're so aware, and when that does happen, we all get the opportunity to repair it or say I'm sorry, right? And take ownership. Just because you did go the direction that wasn't your best self doesn't mean that we can't repair that. And I think that's just a regular opportunity to say, let's say that one-on-one or the friend conversation, I went the wrong way, and the phone call hangs up or the meeting stops, and I'm like, man, just in self-reflection, I definitely didn't show up as my best self. Rather than losing sleep that night, beating yourself up, whatever, take immediate action. And it could be a simple text that says, wow, I really didn't show up my best today. I'm sorry about that. I'd love to talk about this more later. Or picking up the phone and saying, hey, can we talk for another 5 minutes? So we all have those opportunities. I think a lot of times we walk away with a lot of heaviness when we don't show up as our best self, but we don't step in and like work on repairing it or, doing the thing that we would feel better about. We all have those
Mm-hmm.
opportunities.
Yeah. It's such a good way of learning how to break the pattern, because the, let's say the ego takes hold, we behave in a way we don't like. It's typically in anger or fear, judgment, something like that. And then afterwards, there's this layer of shame that is added on, once we are self reflective and we feel like we didn't show up as we want. Sometimes we're willing to look at the shame. Sometimes we just want to shove the shame down by blaming the other person. But that ability to be, again, back to curiosity and compassionate with ourselves, and knowing that taking ownership is not admitting defeat or that you're wrong or that you're bad. It's admitting that you're growing and that you're learning and that you're trying. And the goal is never, ever perfection. It is always progress. And sometimes we've got to forgive ourselves first so that we can let that shame dissipate, but we can help retrain that pattern. It's a neuro pattern. It's a pattern that exists both in the subconscious mind that happens to be hardwired in the body, and it's also a pattern that's happening in the mind as well. We can help begin to rewire and rewrite those patterns. And I think through apologizing and owning up, we teach other people, how to have the strength to do the same. I learned
Mhm.
how to apologize as a parent. I never ever knew. I don't know if I've shared this on Conscious Conversations before, but I think it's our generation. I grew up in a household where my parents never apologized. I just assumed that parents knew everything and I was always wrong because I was the kid. And I had someone tell me a story about apologizing to their children, and through them sharing their story of ownership and apology, it taught me how to be the kind of parent who apologized when I was wrong. And
Mhm.
it's so powerful, when we're able to do that and reflect that in one another. It's a strength that we get to borrow from someone else.
Mm. Wow. Well, and just the ripple effect of the heaviness and, I mean, just ego really taking over us when we don't step in and address something, like to repair the thing. How many times do we don't do anything about it, and then it grows into something bigger, and we're so in our head, and we're stressed, nervous system out of control, right, over this thing where we could have just, because we did recognize it almost all the time, we recognize that's not how I want it to be. But for some
Mm-hmm.
reason, we just either don't approach it or wait way too long when we could have done this healthy for all thing and just addressed it in a 5 minute conversation. And gosh, I just think that's such a good reminder. I can't tell you how many times I overthought something, replayed the conversation in my head over and over, where it's like, why didn't I just reach out and say, can we talk for a few more minutes? I don't know what happened there. I am sorry. I went in I don't want to be that. And I'd love to get to a better place. And just the peace that comes from that.
Yeah. And I think that, people want to do well. I think we want to be kind to one another, but we do get sidetracked. And so to kind of extend the peace offering or the first acknowledgement of I had that on a coaching call a few weeks ago. I had a coaching call that really went sideways. First time ever in my like decades of doing this that had happened. And I was like really taken aback. And on our next coaching call, I it was like the thing we just acknowledged it. Like, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and I want to apologize for the part I played in that, and it invited that person to be reflective and also apologize for how they showed up. And then we were great after that. And we carry around a heavy load on our own, where I think someone is really willing to help unpack it with us if we just bring it to them in a compassionate and empathetic way.
Mm. And would you say that that relationship, the example you just gave, you have a stronger relationship now because of that scenario? Do you feel that?
Yeah, I think that in general, like, challenges test strength or test trust. I think challenges like really test the strength of trust. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, God, this is like true in all areas of like if you think of like think of your loyalty to companies, right? You and I are both Delta girls. I'm getting ready to hop on a Delta flight. By the way, I just counted, this is my 44th flight this year. And I am
Oh, wow.
Delta. I am
Yes.
Delta, like, loyal. And why? It's because when anything has gotten challenging, they've stepped up and it's tested the
Mhm.
strength. That has happened in so many relationships. And so I think with this coaching, it was a chance to test the strength of being like, oh, we had a bump in the road, but how it's handled, makes all the difference, and things they do get better from there. That's,
Mm.
challenge. This is personal too. Take another human out of it. Like, challenges that we go through provide a greater strength and trust within ourselves of what we're capable of. So
Mm.
there's a lot of good that happens in the challenges, but we often get so focused on only wanting the good stuff that we miss the lessons.
That's really good. Yeah. A lot of strength in relationship or loyalty does come from those challenging times. You learn so much about people. And I think about a couple of leaders in my life that I admire so much because of how I've seen them handle a conflict situation. One of which I'm thinking about, this person taking ownership of, they acted like a complete, like, I was like, wow, I saw another side. But the way that they took ownership and like admitted that and shared it publicly with that, was not my best self. It's like, gosh, just the admiration that I had for that, just the relationships that we build through those situations, and vulnerability. I mean, the core of it is the vulnerability that that leader showed. And it's like, yeah, it's human, right?
It is
That's so
human.
good.
And I think, yeah, that's the thing I hope people continue to take away from these conversations when we're talking about egos and triggers. And it's just revealing a better understanding of ourselves. It's revealing a part of ourselves that might be scared and needs some love or compassion or community, or it's not the enemy. It's these parts of us are not bad. They are. And so it's us learning how to navigate them and shift them and love on them and all of those things, throughout this path. And all of us have it. That's the other thing, is we get to judge other people based on how we see them on the outside, but we don't know the battles they're fighting in their heads. We all have that. And the more that we can learn the difference between ego's voice and our highest best self, our highest wisdom, the less suffering we experience in our mind. So I hope many people are just being curious, but like, oh, was that me talking or was that my ego talking? That's what I hope these conversations spur for people.
Mm-hmm. So good. Can't tell you how many times what we talk about is created that week. Like, it happens. Like, we talked about a scenario. I'm like, oh, here I am. And here I get to choose. So we hope that this series is a weekly habit for you that helps you show up more present, and you're able to take the example that you heard and use it to be your best self. And stick with us. Continue to be with us on Tuesdays. These are so fun. And no matter where you are, whether you're on your way to hop on a Delta flight, or, on your way out to a walk, like, join us. We want to make this a conscious habit. So thank you so much for being with us on Conscious Conversations. Amy, have a great flight, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye.